In the dense, humid forests of Southeast Asia, a silent battle raged alongside the gunfire. This wasn't just a clash of soldiers, it was a war of secrets. In this Vietnam War documentary-style breakdown, we expose the hidden world where a spy could be your trusted cook, and a radio signal could spell death from above. While the CIA, also called the Central Intelligence Agency, launched desperate counter-efforts, the Viet Cong and their northern allies were often one step ahead, listening to American commanders in real time. From the jungle espionage of the Iron Triangle to the high-stakes betrayal inside the presidential palace, this is the untold story of the Vietnam War. By 1969, the intelligence war had evolved into a sophisticated game of cat and mouse. On December 20th, 1969, troops from the U.S. 1st Infantry Division raided a command post just 4 kilometers north of Ben Suc. They captured 12 soldiers, but what they found in the bunker was far more alarming than rifles. They discovered a sophisticated signals intelligence center. There were U.S. Army radios, Chinese receivers, and Panasonic and Sony transistor radios modified to intercept tactical communications. The prisoners confessed that they had English linguists attached to their units. Their job was to read the mail of American forces. The captured documents were terrifyingly detailed. They contained training manuals on how to monitor the specific communication procedures of the U.S. 1st Infantry Division, the 1st Cavalry, and the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. They were intercepting the specific signals that warned U.S. and the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, also called as the ARVN, forces to clear an area before a B-52 bombing run. This allowed the Viet Cong to slip out of the targeting boxes before the bombs fell. General Creighton Abrams, the U.S. commander, was stunned. When presented with the captured documents, he admitted, "The attention to detail, complete accuracy, and thorough professionalism is amazing. Everyone will be informed that they are." While the Viet Cong dominated the radio waves in the field of jungle warfare, Hanoi had infiltrated the highest corridors of power in Saigon. Meet Vu Ngoc Nha. He wasn't a soldier in black pajamas. He was a recruit from 1955 who had been ordered to infiltrate the government. He was so successful that he became a special aide to President Thieu and later to President Nguyen Van Thieu. He established a Saigon Spy Ring right under the nose of the CIA. During the 1968 Tet Offensive, when communist commandos raided the presidential palace, Nha was actually inside the building. In a moment that sounds like fiction, but is documented fact, Nha, the spy, opened the palace wine cellar during the attack. He assumed that if the palace guards got drunk, they wouldn't put up a fight. It worked. The soldiers drank the wine, though it reportedly made them fearless rather than compliant. It wasn't until July 1969, under Operation Projectile, that the South Vietnamese Special Branch finally caught him. They found microfilm and documents at his home. Nha had been feeding Hanoi vital intelligence on everything from President Thieu's family affairs to the negotiation strategies for the Paris peace talks. He had even been given the key to President Thieu's room. Sometimes the most dangerous human intelligence, also called as HUMINT, asset isn't a high-ranking official, but the person serving the tea. In October 1969, the CIA conducted a counter-espionage operation in Dalat involving a young female defector. She had been a cook in a Viet Cong safe house. This woman had a near-photographic memory and a romantic imagination. To pass the time while cooking, she had invented fantasy stories for every person who passed through her safe house on their way to Saigon. She remembered their faces, their mannerisms, and their quirks to fit her made-up stories. A CIA operative named Antonio Mendez, the same man who would later orchestrate the Argo exfiltration from Iran, sat down with her. For days, they went through albums of photographs. She described the features of the people she knew from her stories. The result was devastating for the undercover agents of the Viet Cong. She identified 26 intelligence officers and operatives. This led to the arrest of 13 people who had infiltrated U.S. community houses in Saigon, working as trusted servants and employees. The cook had blown their cover. But not every capture led to a confession. The case of Nguyen Thai is a study in the brutal contest of wills between spy and counter-spy. Thai was a high-ranking counter-espionage director for the North, captured in 1970. When he was handed over to the CIA, he was put in a windowless, air-conditioned white cell designed to disorient him. His interrogator was Frank Snepp. The Central Intelligence Organization, also called as the CIO, which was the South Vietnamese Intelligence Service, also participated in the interrogation using brutal methods like electric shock and water torture. Thai's strategy was brilliant. He played the part of a man who was breaking, but he would only give up information that was already useless or false. Thai pretended not to understand English, forcing Snepp to use an interpreter, hoping the interpreter might leak information to him. He feared the cold air conditioning more than physical pain. Despite months of isolation and interrogation by both Americans and the CIO, Thai never gave up his network. In a final twist of irony, as Saigon fell in 1975, a senior CIA official suggested disappearing Thai, throwing him from a plane into the South China Sea. The order wasn't carried out. Thai survived, was handed over to his comrades, and was later named a hero of the People's Armed Forces. The CIA also engaged in extensive covert operations to destabilize the North. One scheme, the Sacred Sword of the Patriots League, was a fake resistance movement created by the CIA and the Military Assistance Command, Vietnam Studies and Observations Group, also called as MACV-SOG, also known as MACV-SOG. They abducted North Vietnamese, trained them, and sent them back to confess about this fictitious league, hoping to make the communist regime paranoid about internal dissent. By the early 1970s, counterinsurgency efforts like the Phoenix program relied heavily on turning defectors. One such agent was codenamed the Mad Bomber. He was a Viet Cong captain who defected because he feared South Vietnam would win. To prove his loyalty to his new CIA handlers, he made a terrifying offer. He would blow up a National Liberation Front, also called as the NLF, ammunition cache in Long Con. He did it, taking nearby ARVN forces completely by surprise. Then there was Gold Mother. She was an NLF agent handler who was turned by her former lover, a defector named Ku Long. The CIA codenamed her Gold Mother because of the two thin golden strips she wore dangling between her breasts. Operating as a black market cigarette dealer, she moved freely in Bien Hoa. She provided the names of 11 NLF agents in her network and fed the CIA details on attacks against the 5th ARVN Division. Her handler, CIA officer Orrin DeForest, noted that she, like the Mad Bomber, seemed to be an adrenaline junkie, addicted to the dangerous game of double-crossing her comrades in the guerrilla tactics of the war. These stories reveal a conflict far more complex than the battle maps suggest. It was a war of signals and silence, of covert operations and betrayals within families. From the intercepts along the Ho Chi Minh Trail to the spies standing next to the president of South Vietnam, the intelligence war was defined by the human element, the cook who remembered a face, and the spy who refused to break in a white room.